of Turntables by Janelle Monnier. This will allow those still joining us the opportunity to participate in our complete presentation.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you agree that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive.
The table about to turn. The table about to turn. The table about to turn. Yeah. I've been flipping through my timeline, trying to get my mind right. My city cried out. I got to cool down, but I'm under pressure. Cooking with my Crisco. Look at what my fist go. A renegade when I'm in a rage. I got to cool down, but I'm under pressure. I keep my hands dirty, my mind clean. Got a new agenda with a new dream. I'm kicking out the old regime. Liberation, elevation, education. America, you a lie, but the whole world about to testify. I said the whole world about to testify. And the table's about to, the table's about to turn, turn, turn. Ain't gonna stop until it turn, turn, turn. No, it's time for it to turn, turn, turn. We can't wait for it to turn. Yeah, the table got to turn. There's a boomerang booming back. Yeah, you laid an egg, now it's about to hatch. Yeah, you gaslighting, about to meet your match. You fuck up the kitchen, then you should do the dishes. Burning down plantations. Ain't no parking, I don't need no validation. I like sage when I'm in a rage. I don't need permission, I got my intuition. Hands dirty, mind clean. A different vision with a new dream. We kicking out the old regime. Liberation, elevation, education. I said America, you's a lie, but the whole world about to testify. I said the whole world about to testify. We gon' watch the table. Now we gon' watch the table. Turn, turn, turn. That's right. Turn, turn, turn. Waited too long, you gotta turn. Just turn, turn. We see it all now. Turn. Said the table got to turn. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our second forum on an important discussion on racial and social injustice. We listened to your voices, as it was perfectly clear that our student athletes wanted their voices heard. We are here today to continue listening, but more importantly, try to institute change. For those of you that are new to our Raider family, I am Vance Manicus, the athletic director. Today's discussion is important and critical for our Moorpark College Athletic Department, our college, and our nation as a whole. As I stated in our first forum, as a department, we believe in open and frank dialogue. Since our last discussion, more Black lives have been taken or seriously injured. We have encouraged coaches to have continued dialogue with our classes. If your coaches have not had this discussion, ask them why not. Our athletic trainers, in conjunction with the Student Health Center mental health staff, are presenting weekly athletic chats regarding issues facing student athletes. Racial and social justice is one of them. Due to discrimination and inequities, protests are continuing. We must continue our efforts and make sure our voices are heard for change to happen. An election is coming. I encourage everyone to have his or her voice heard by voting. We need to look at ourselves to make sure we value and respect one another regardless of one's race, national origin, or any other potentially discriminatory characteristics. Take this forum as an opportunity, both personally and collectively, to look for solutions to racial and social injustices and expands our minds to the needs of others. I encourage everyone to speak from your hearts as you matter. I encourage you to listen, for as you listen, you will see there are similarities. Everyone deserves to be treated equally and provided the same equitable opportunities. Your voice matters. As a department, we will continue to listen and make necessary changes. Today's forum is being recorded and will be posted on our athletic website. It is also closed caption. To view a closed caption, go to the button at the bottom of your screen and click on the closed caption icon to enable. To be part of this discussion, please type your questions on a Q&A and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of our presentation today. At the end of today, I encourage each one of you to continue this dialogue with your coaches and your teammates. This fall, many of our intercollegiate classes are online, but will be having a face-to-face component. These are great times for discussions with teammates and coaches. I would like to thank our student athletes who are so willingly agreed to share their day-to-day and Moorpark College experiences, and each one of you for joining us as well. In addition, I'd like to thank Benia Sumter from our College Fiscal Services Department for facilitating discussion today. Benia Sumter is a senior accounting technician in our Fiscal Services Department. She received her bachelor's degree in finance with an emphasis in real estate and law from California State University, Long Beach, and a master's of business administration from Pepperdine University. In addition to be co-advisor for the Black Student Union, Benia also has enjoyed assisting Moorpark College in efforts as game day recruiting host for potential student athletes. Her past as a running back and safety for the Ventura County Wolfpack, an all-women's full contact football team, has lent her ability and credibility when relating to student athletes. Her number one priority and source of pride is her son, who is now a freshman at Moorpark High School. It is an honor to have Ms. Benia Sumter here today. Ms. Sumter, will you take over, please?
Thank you so much, Vance, for that lovely introduction. You're far too kind, as usual. I would like to just take a second to personally thank you, Vance, for always supporting myself and women's sports in particular. If I could take a moment to plug my football team, the Ventura County Wolfpack. If you go to our Facebook or Instagram, VC Wolfpack Football, you will see some pictures from when Vance invited our team out to the Moorpark College football game last season and highlighted us. We were able to go down to the 50-yard line, and it was a great moment just for women in sports. So Vance, I'd like to thank you again for that. That was huge for us. You are a giant on campus, and when I say giant, I mean the size of your heart and the depth of your character. And so for all these decades that you've been on campus serving the community, thank you.
Thank you, Benia.
You are deeply appreciated. So moving on, why we are all here today, I'm very excited to be moderating this panel of student athletes as we aim to bring just educate our campus really on the racial and social injustices that are happening and get the unique perspective of our students. So if we can go to slide 2. These are our student panelists here, and I'd like to have them take a moment and introduce themselves. If you students can give us your name, your hometown, what year you are at Moorpark College, and what sport you play and what position. Starting with Skylar.
Hello, my name is Skylar Dillon. I graduated from Pacifica High School in Oxnard, California, and I attend Moorpark College. This is my freshman year at Moorpark College, and I'm on the women's basketball team. And my position is the 1 and 2 guard.
Thank you. Adrian?
Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian McIntyre. I am from the city of Santa Clarita in California. I graduated from Saugus High School, and now I am a freshman at Moore Park College playing basketball as a 1 and 2 guard.
Jordan? Jordan, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
I think he's traveling, so he may have lost us for a little bit. He'll hopefully be.
Okay, let's move on to Micah.
Hi, I'm Micah Stinson. I graduated from Inderkum High School in Sacramento, California. It's my second year here at Moore Park, and I'm on the volleyball team, women's volleyball team, and I'm a hitter.
Maisha? We're having some technical difficulties with Maisha. Okay, we'll see if we can go back to Maisha. Maisha, we're having a hard time hearing you. We're going to move on to Kathy.
All right. Hi, my name's Kathy Rodriguez. I live in Simi Valley, California. I went to Royal High School. This is my second year at Moore Park, and I'm on the cross country team and on the track team. And in track, I do the 400.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sorry that we did not get to hear from, I think we're
Graduated.
All right. Maisha's having some technical difficulties. Hopefully her back in the loop, and then also Jordan. But let's start with our first question. If we can go to the next slide. Great. All right. So in the aftermath of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and now Jacob Blake, how do you feel as a person of color you had to interact with law enforcement? And also, has this changed recently, or is it still the same? So I'd like to start off with Skylar.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
As a colored person, I would try to avoid police officers as much as possible because I would not want the officers to escalate the situation. And referring from 7 months ago, as an African-American, it does not differ from 7 months ago. George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were just the tipping points, but there was Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, and the list continues. I think what changed was the world stopped because of the pandemic, and people were forced to hear us.
Thank you for sharing, Skylar. Adrian?
After the traumatic deaths of George Floyd, Jacob Blake, and Breonna Taylor, I now fear the day that I ever run into law enforcement. I do believe that there are some police officers who try to do better for the Black community and Black people in whole, but at a quick look at it, you can never be too sure. I fear that one day I run into police enforcement and I'll be the next Black male on the list of people who died from police officers.
Thank you. So I don't believe we have Jordan back yet, do we? Or we do?
Jordan's.
Yeah, I'm here.
Jordan, there you are. Jordan, if you could just take a quick moment and give us your intro, your hometown, the sport that you play, the position you play, your year at Moore Park, and then if you could answer the question.
Okay. Well, yeah, hi, my name is Jordan Fuller. I came from Village Christian High School, and I play the point guard position at Moore Park College. But I'm originally from Los Angeles as well. But anyways, after the tragic deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, really at this point, like I know in the Black community, we've seen these deaths happen like a lot. So for us, like honestly, when I first saw it, like it wasn't anything like out of the blue to me. So that's why, like seeing everyone come out here and actually go to the protests and actually try to induce change is like a great sign. But I remember even out being in the protest, it felt kind of surreal just to see everyone coming together to fight for us. And I'm really like excited about that. But then again, I'm scared to get my hopes up because this is something that's happened so much. Like there's been so much killings, even back to slavery times. Like it's just, you know what I'm saying? I don't really want to get my hopes up now that change is really going to happen. But I'm definitely praying for it.
Thank you, Jordan. And I'm just going to ask a quick follow-up because it looks like you're driving, right? You're in a car. If there was,
I'm parked.
Oh, okay. But okay, let's say you are driving. If there's a police officer that, or even if you're parked, right? If there's a police officer that pulled up behind you right now, how would you feel? Like physically, what would, or emotionally, what would go through your mind?
Definitely. The first thing, anytime I'm driving and I see a cop, like the first thing that I ever think is like, okay, let me try to act like a whole different person almost. You feel me? Like act as square, almost as square as I can, so that like they don't look at me and try to profile me or or anything like that. So yeah, it does scare me to have a police officer to come interact with me.
Absolutely. So it's called or referred to as code switching, right? Your environment determines how you react. And so it sounds like the things that you have seen when you see law enforcement, you automatically get scared and you want to give them the best version of you so that you can come out on the other side unharmed. Is what I'm hearing. Thank you for sharing, Jordan. Next up, we have Micah. Same question.
Yeah, so as a woman of color, I definitely feel like I have to be more cautious, and not even just like now, even like 7 months ago, I've always felt like I have to be more cautious when I'm around like the law enforcement, or like I feel like what Skylar said, I avoid them as much as possible. But I mostly worry for like my loved ones, like my family, like my dad, my brother, people around me, like, because anything like what's been going on, like what happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, anything could happen to those people around me, and like their stories really just break my heart. Every time I see something like that, I get kind of emotional, and it just makes me sad, and it makes me feel for their families and all that stuff. So yeah.
Thank you, Micah. Maisha? We may have lost Maisha. Oh, no, there you are. Maisha?
Hi. Yeah, for me, after the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, I feel like it's been the same. Like, these killings have been happening forever, and people are barely starting to notice it. And I feel like with the protests, you can really see who's your real friends as a person of color, and you can see who's really for you, who's really on your team.
Great. All right. Thank you, Maisha. And Kathy.
Okay. So as a non-Black person, I just want to say I will never understand what it is like to be a Black person in the United States. I personally, if I would interact with law enforcement, I would not feel like I would be perceived as a threat. And I do not think that they would, I do not fear my life because of the color of my skin. 7 months ago, I would have said I felt relatively safe around police, because the times that I go out, I'm running alone. And that is a privilege that most, if not all, of Black America has never been able to experience. So yeah, now when I see police, because of the climate, the tense political climate, I get tense. But it's never me fearing my life. It's more me fearing losing another Black person's life because if you see a cop interacting with a Black person, you never know which way it's going to go. And that shouldn't be the case.
Thank you for sharing, Kathy. All right, let's move on to question number 2. Next slide. Do you feel all people are policed equally in similar situations, regardless of race, gender, and orientation? And this time we're going to start off with Adrian.
I honestly do not believe that people are policed differently. You know, in every police district, the police officers are different and the way they run things are different. So you can never really assume that things are going to go smoothly with police officers if you were to run into them. To me, I think it's all about that the police have power, and you don't. They're able to carry that gun on their hip, and they're able to do all these things. And for me as a Black man, like, what can I do when a police officer has a gun on his hip? One slight move can take my life away. So I do not believe that people are policed different or the same.
Thank you for sharing that, Jordan.
Yeah, I most definitely don't believe that people are policed the same. Profiling is most definitely a thing. I can share one experience with me. When I was 16, I drove a 2003 Chevy Impala, and that's like a car that you get profiled in a lot. But so there was one time I was in the car with one of my friends, and we were just driving, not breaking the law at all, and I got pulled over, and the police came up to my door, and they didn't tell me why I got pulled over or anything, but I didn't ask why because I was just trying to comply. And pretty much, like, at the end, like, when he was leaving, I was like, yo, can you tell me why I got pulled over? And he told me that my back tail light was out, and then he took his baton and hit my tail light and put it out and then left. So that just goes to show right there that there are dirty cops out here, and you definitely get profiled for no reason because we didn't do anything to break the law. But sad reality.
It's a very disheartening story, Jordan. And I think most people can relate to the fact that, or most Black people anyway, can relate to the fact that our skin can be seen as a weapon. Our tone of skin is weaponized. And that's all that they need to feel in fear, or that's the reason, a justification. It's very unfortunate. I'd like to call on Micah to answer the question.
Yeah, so I also do not feel that people are policed equally because I see stories like it all the time. Like, I see different videos of people like a Black one will be with a white person and they're both doing the same thing, hanging out, just not doing anything, that's bad or breaking the law. And then the police will approach the Black person before they approach the white person, or just not even approach the white person at all. And I've even seen this, with my friends I've been with too. This has definitely happened before, not with me, but I've witnessed it. Like, I just witnessed stuff like this happen all the time. So it always has something to do with race all the time. So yeah.
Thank you. Maisha? No, you're muted still, Maisha. Thank you.
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I do feel that people are not policed equally in the exact same situations regarding race, gender, and orientation, because we've seen it. We've seen it with Breonna Taylor. We've seen it with Elijah McClain. Like, I feel like me going out and being pulled over by the cops, I'm more likely to be hurt, be dehumanized, be killed even, than my white counterparts. And I feel like that's something we need to change as a society.
Thank you. And Kathy?
Yeah, I do not feel that all people are policed equally. people of color, but overwhelmingly Black people, are perceived as a threat and like people who need to be controlled first. It's a unfortunate American bias, and it's not fair. I feel like if a police were to see a Black person, they would see them as a criminal first, and as Maisha said, it's dehumanizing. They're seen as a criminal first, not really a human life first, unlike white people. That is it.
Right, the presumption of guilt. Absolutely. And Skylar, if you can also answer this question.
Okay, sorry. Well, I agree with everybody else because it's like growing up Black, it's like, you know, everybody has had that conversation. Like if you get pulled over by by an officer, put your hands on your steering wheel, comply, do whatever you got to do to get out the situation. And there's so many other, white people who have not had that talk. Like when they get pulled over or something, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get a ticket. While we're afraid that, oh my gosh, I might not go home. So I feel like that's like the biggest problem we have right now.
Thank you, Skylar. All right, let's move on to the next slide. And our next question is, what do you think when you see an unarmed man shot 7 times in the back with multiple officers present, as opposed to an armed gunman who is known to have just killed and injured several people be allowed to return home by multiple officers at the scene of the crime? So we're going to start with Jordan on this one. And I want to make sure that everyone kind of knows what we're talking about, the incident in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Jacob Blake was shot 7 times in the back. And also the 17-year-old that killed 2 people, injured an additional one at the protest, and was allowed to go home and was later arrested. So Jordan, if you could.
How do I feel about that? Well, to me, it's just like a real big welcome to America. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's been for the longest time. And now it's like we have, social media, so we can all film this and see it. And everyone can be like, whoa, like, nah, like this is really happening. But this has been happening. I've talked to my great grandmother and the stories that she's told me, like the things that she's seen, all the way back from Jim Crow laws to seeing white only signs and black only signs. Like, man, like, it was definitely a big welcome to America if you've never been.
Okay. It's history repeating itself.
So,
different generation. All right. So, Micah, if you can answer this question next.
Yeah, it's really nothing much I can say about this. I definitely agree with Jordan. It's just, it angers me. It angers me deeply, and it makes me sad to see like this is still going on. Like this, like really, this has happened multiple times. Y'all are not gonna do nothing about it. Y'all gonna keep doing the same thing over and over again. Nothing's gonna change, So it's like it's pretty much. I feel like since it's been happening now, it's like a wake up call, kind of like it's kind of, we got to start taking action and like seeing what we could do as society to do better and fix these problems.
Thank you, Micah. And Maisha?
What I think about an unarmed man getting shot 7 times in the back, an innocent unarmed man, versus a guilty person who just killed a bunch of people getting to walk home free, that makes me mad. That it makes me sick, actually, because for me as a Black person, my skin is seen as a weapon, but like my mom, she's white, her skin is seen as a shield, and she's seen as innocent, while if I'm walking next to her down the street, I'm seen as a thug or something. I can't even walk outside with my hood on without being targeted.
Thank you for sharing that, Maisha. And Kathy?
Yeah, when I see it, I think it's like, could it be any more obvious, like this discrepancy? Was there not a white like mass murderer who who was given like a burger after. Like, that is ridiculous. He gets a burger. Jacob Blake gets 7 shots and permanent paralyzation. Like, just blatant. And it like everyone else said, it's sad that it's been going on for so long.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. Skylar, what are your feelings?
I agree with everybody else. Like, this is really unacceptable. And, you know, just thinking about it, it like makes you want to cry and like breaks your heart, because like whenever I watch the news or something, it's like you hear someone got shot and I'm just praying like, please don't be a Black person. Please don't be a Black person. And then they always have an excuse like, well, he's a this, he's a that. But does that mean he should lose his life over that? And then the Wisconsin dude, it was like a white man. The sad thing is he went right by police officers, like he was turning himself in, and then continued to keep walking like, oh, you're not going to arrest me? That is white privilege. It's a prime example of white privilege. And I don't like how people say, oh, we don't have white privilege. Yes, you do, because with Black people, it's called shoot first and ask questions later. Well, white people, they give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yep, you're absolutely right about that one. And Adrian, you can answer this question for us.
You know, to me, it just leaves me speechless, like in a very negative way. You know, it's just, you can ask so many questions on how and why, but I don't know, it's in today's world, us as Black people, we can never get that answer from the police officers. Like it was mentioned before, it's history repeating itself, but like Jordan said, now we have social media to put it out there, but it's been, like Jordan said, it's been happening, you know, like this has been ongoing, and it's not going to stop until it gets to a certain point where we can really say like enough is enough. But I don't know, for people outside of the Black community, like they don't know what enough is, you know, so.
Thank you, Adrian. What I hear is that this is making you all sad, angry, disheartened, heartbroken, and it breaks my heart as a parent to hear that the young people are feeling this, because the Black adults we've been feeling this for, you know, a while, and it's again history repeating itself. Thank you so much for sharing though your stories and how this is really affecting you. Let's move on to the next slide. Question 4. Would police reform be effective and actually stop racist officers from killing people of color? And so we do have some stats here on the screen where you'll see on the first one, there are more total deaths of non-people of color. So let's say the white people here, you'll see in totality, the number is higher, but statistically speaking, deaths per million, you can see that it is disproportionately affecting the Black community and Hispanic community. What do we feel about this? Micah, can you start us off with this?
Yeah, so I personally don't believe that police reform is going to be effective. As people, like other police officers that commit these crimes, killing people like Breonna Taylor with no reason, like when she was innocent. I feel like until they start getting charged for what they do, like their crimes for murder, other police officers are not gonna I feel like it's not gonna be effective, because they feel like the racist cops see that they're not getting charged, so they're like, oh, if they're not getting charged, I could keep doing what I do, you know, seeing things how I see it, if I'm not gonna get charged. So I feel like until people start until the police start getting charged for what they do, then nothing's really going to change. You can't really train a racist person who has their beliefs to not be racist at the end of the day. So that's just how I feel.
Thank you. And Maisha?
Yeah, I agree with Micah. I feel like police reform won't even be effective if the dirty cops aren't actively being held accountable for their actions. But I also believe that with police work, you're working with the community. So I believe that all officers should go through some type of training to teach them how to deal with people of mental illness as well. Because I feel like sometimes when someone with a mental illness especially a Black person, is kind of freaking out a little because they have low anxiety, whatever, they take it as a threat immediately. And I feel like that would cut down a lot of killings as well.
Okay, thank you. And Kathy?
Yeah, so I agree that the number one thing needs to be accountability because, you know, as Micah said, like, it's just people there's no reason for them to stop right now. They're going to get off like with maybe a slap on the wrist. But I think, I don't know if it would be effective, but I like the idea of police reform, like a less shift on like treating people with violence to like stop it, and more on just why does it need to be with like violence? Like, I don't know, you can like de-escalate situations without stuff like that. And then also maybe regular like bias screenings. I don't know, but I think reform needs to be made.
Thank you. And Skylar?
Well, I agree because police reform will not be effective until police are held accountable for their action. Because if police are not held accountable for their actions, it's like normalized, like, okay, I'm gonna get off. So why does it matter? What do I need to change? And I feel like another thing for reform is police should not have to cover such a like large umbrella of everything. Like, if someone has mental illness, police come. They should have someone like with different tactics to like take care of that situation. And I think that's the biggest problem because they come to everything and it's like at a 10 when it needs to be like a 2 or a 3. And until that happens, there is not going to be any change.
Thank you for sharing. And Adrian, if you can answer this question.
Yeah, like Kathy said, you know, and Skylar, you know, reform won't be effective until there's some kind of accountability to it. But I don't know, to me, at the end of the day, I really don't think that there's a way to completely stop the police officers are killing people of color. You know, it's like, in a way, this is like their lifestyle. You know, like, this is how they got brought up, or this is something in their life had to happen where they decided, okay, you know, I don't like Black people or Hispanics, you know? So it's like, there's so much hate in that person to the point where they could kill them. And it's like, there has to be more than just reform. I think like the whole system has to change, or it's going to keep happening. The numbers might drop, but I don't think there's a way to completely stop all of it.
Okay. Thank you. And Jordan?
Yeah, just like Adrian said, the whole system has to change. Like, reform would obviously like do some help, I feel like. But at the end of the day, like, if you're becoming a police officer, you're doing work for the greater good, not the greater good of some people, but all people. So at some point, like, I personally feel like to become a police officer, there has to be some type of morality check or something, just to so that you can prove that you're not looking at races out here. You're just trying to help the human race as one. You're not looking at colors and saying, okay, I'm gonna help this colored person, but that person, nah. You became a police officer to help everybody. So that's your job. That's what you need to do. So if the reform is a morality check and making sure that the people who are getting badges to kill people have good morals and are actually thinking about everybody and not just a certain group of people, like it's a cult or something, then yeah, that would be great. But until then, I don't see any change.
All right, well said from all the panelists. Oh, let's move on to question number 5. All right, so multiple professional sports teams and leagues have spoken out, delayed games, and displayed praises for racial equality and change. Does this inspire you as an athlete to try and bring about change? And if so, how? And we're going to start with Maisha.
As an athlete, I think that yes, it does inspire me even more, because most of the time the small-minded, like racist people, the only time they ever interact with people of color is through watching sports. We're on their baseball teams, their football teams, their hockey teams. That's the only time they really see us. So for us to bring apart our side and show them how we feel, it has to be through sports sometimes, because that's the only way they're going to see it.
Great. And Kathy?
Yeah, it is inspiring for them to recognize the large influence that they have and using it to empower people who are not being heard. And so that does inspire me to continue to use the privileges that I have and the voice that I have to allow other people who are not being heard to be heard.
Great, thank you. And Skylar?
I think, yes, it's always important to use your platform, whatever kind of platform you have, to spread awareness on the issues going on right now or in the future. And I think it's very important because it's like, you don't want to just be someone that, just shoot the ball or pass the football. No, there's somebody behind this, like your color still matters. And I feel like when people look at you as an athlete, they're like, oh yeah, oh man, he's a cool dude. They don't see your color, but when you take all that off, you're still Black. You're still a colored person. And I think that's the biggest problem.
Thank you. And Adrian?
Sorry. I think it's great that all these athletes and teams and leagues are displaying that there needs to be some type of change, but that, in my opinion, like those teams and athletes can only do so much. So for me as an athlete, it's kind of like I because me and Jordan are teammates, and I know that we can both make a huge change, not only on our campus, but all over California, making our voice heard. And at some point it has to be like, for me, it's like, I don't want to be seen as an athlete who is doing all this for the Black community. I would rather it be, okay, he's doing all this for the Black community, but he's also playing basketball. Like like, I don't know. That's just how I see it. That's just how. That's what I wanted to how I want it to be done. So that's just me.
That's absolutely understandable. You reserve the right to define who you are and not other people. And sport is not who you are. So, we understand what you're saying. Thank you. And Micah, or excuse me, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Micah.
Okay. Definitely seeing professional athletes, people that we look up to, people that we relate to, seeing them doing all these things, like using their platforms to spread awareness for the cause and the situations that's been going on. It definitely inspires me as an athlete to get involved in the community more and get involved in spreading awareness and just making people aware that this stuff is not okay and that we need to be heard and that we need to we need things to happen and start changing for us. So it definitely does inspire me.
Thank you. And Jordan, if you can answer this question.
Yeah, most definitely does inspire me. I mean, just going back in history to knowing that there was a time where Black people weren't even allowed to play certain sports, to now that we're actually able to use this platform to actually have an influence on the world, you know what I'm saying, it most definitely inspires me. And I'm definitely going to do the same with whatever platform, I have now, whatever platform I come to build, because I feel like personally our ancestors like fought for us to be able to do that. So now that I'm in the position to voice it loudly, I'm going to do that at all costs. So it's most definitely inspiring.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. I actually have a question for Vance. So as athletic director, Vance, would you support our student athletes taking a knee or showing support in some type of way before a game?
Bonita, that's a great question. And the answer is unequivocal. Yes, I would. I would support however our student athletes wish to support Black lives and make a statement that Black lives matter and social injustices are not to be tolerated by anybody in our society. So the answer is yes, I would.
Thank you, Vance. All right, next slide. Okay, so recent video of NFL star Brandon Marshall being detained by security and law enforcement from entering his own home in an affluent, primarily white neighborhood has surfaced. The question is, has there been a time when you felt limited or unwelcome in certain neighborhoods, schools that you may have attended, or even here at Moorpark College? And I'd like Kathy to go first.
Okay, so I feel like most of my experience is like I feel like welcome, but like I also live in Simi Valley, which is a primarily white suburb, and like I went to a private school when I was younger, and so I was like one of the couple people of color there, and so I definitely felt different, and there were like they were kids, so we were kids, so differences stood out, and I just remember feeling very, very different there. But I don't think there was like maliciousness. It was just like it was just pointed out a lot. And then here at Moorpark, there's been like a couple comments, like I think they just slipped out from some professors, like, oh, I was wearing this shirt of this club I was a part of in high school, and they were like, oh, I wouldn't expect you to be a part of that. I was just like, what? Like, based on like stereotypes. And so yeah, it's just like not super malicious stuff has happened to me, but just like little things that are like offensive and painful.
Thank you for sharing. And Maisha.
I just want to take the time to say this is a perfect example of, this is an NFL star. People don't see him as aggressive on the field, but once he steps off the field, he looks like a thug to everybody else. But for me, there has been a time where I felt unwelcome. I went to Oxnard High School. It is predominantly a Hispanic school. But when we would go out and we would play basketball games, there's this one time in particular, we went to Ventura High School. The whole time, their predominantly white student section is yelling names at me, calling me names. And then even after, like, I didn't feel safe there at all. And I stood up for myself. And because I stood up for myself, I came home, I went to bed, and I woke up and my whole house was egged. Everything was TP'd, and they left a dog bone and a banana at my doorstep. And you can't tell me that's not racially charged. Motivated. Yeah, motivated, yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you for sharing, Maisha. Micah, your take on this.
I personally, okay, well, I come from, I mentioned before, I'm from Sacramento, and I went to a school. It was really diverse, but like when I was on the volleyball team there, it was actually mostly Black girls. Like it was mostly Black girls on my team. And so when I would play club, it was always like I would play club in like different areas. And it was like I'm from like this place called Natomias. It's more diverse. But when I go to like Rockland, it's a little bit farther. it's mostly white people. It's like the rich white neighborhoods and stuff like that. And so the clubs that I would play for, because that was like the nearest ones, it would be mostly like, white girls. And, I was probably the only Black girl on my team for most of the, like, majority of my years playing volleyball, like outside of school, outside of high school, like in club. I was mostly like the only Black girl on my team, or like one of the only 2 Black girls on the team. And I don't necessarily feel like I don't belong, or like, unwelcome, but I do feel kind of like, uncomfortable, or like, are like me, because there have been times that people, because of my color, didn't really like me, or just small stuff like that. But I know I don't really feel unwelcome at Moore Park either. When I first got there, I was kind of like, like, are they gonna like me? But no, I definitely feel welcome by my teammates and the coaches and everything. So.
Thank you, Micah. And we are getting down to the last 10 minutes of our webinar. And I do want everyone to have a chance to answer this particular question, because I think it's important. But I just do want to share with our panelists that we've got 3 more people to go and just a few minutes left. So Jordan, if you can give us your take.
Yeah, so so I remember the first time that I ever felt out of place. Like, originally I'm from Inglewood, but we ended up moving to the Valley, which is like kind of like white and like Persian area. And it was actually in elementary school. The first time I remember I was just trying to make friends just like any other kid. And I went up to like this white group or whatever, and I was just trying to sit with them at lunch. And like, they just wouldn't let me sit with them. When I asked them why, they told me it was because I'm Black. So like, as a kid, like, I was like, I don't know, like, I just didn't really understand like how that had anything, like, why did that matter, So I went and asked my mom, like, yo, Mom, like, why am I Black? And that was a genuine question that I really sat there at a young age and asked my mom, like, why am I Black? You feel me? Like, I felt like my skin color was like almost betraying me. Like, these kids really didn't like me because of my skin color. Like, that didn't make sense to me. And at this point, like, at this age, I kind of take pride in the fact that when I go to places like white areas or anything like that, that they're all looking at me. I take pride in that now. I don't look down at that at all. I just see it as, what I'm saying, they're looking at me because they must see something they like or something. I don't know. You feel me? Like, I try to make it into something positive, because that feeling is definitely not a good feeling to feel when you just feel like everyone's looking at you all the time because you stand out when we're all just human at the end of the day.
Exactly. Thank you. And Adrian.
So I live in Santa Cruz Valley. I've lived out here since I came to school out here since I was, I think, 2nd grade. And I've never really felt like I've been fully accepted, Like, even since I was in 2nd grade, I've always felt that I was treated differently by the kids on the playground or by teachers. And it's like, as I got older and I matured more, I realized that, it wasn't just me who was going through that. It was every other colored person who lived out here. I live in a townhome community, and I have some friendly neighbors, but I also have some neighbors who, like, every time I drive by them, every single time they look at me and they're like, I just see the disgusted look on their face. And it's like, if that person really sat down and got to know me and really knew who I was and didn't look at me for my color, they would realize that, like, me and that person, we'll have a lot in similar, or like, I'm not a thug, or I'm not someone who's a harmful person. And it's like, a lot of people don't want to accept the fact that us people of color are human as well. So I don't know, it sucks, but like Jordan said, like, I'm proud of my skin color. I'm proud of my race. I'm proud of where I came from, and I'll never be ashamed of that. So.
Thank you, Adrian. And finally, Skylar.
Well, my experience growing up, I went to a private school from kindergarten to 8th grade. And, it was majority white people around me. I'm like the only Black kid, and like every Black kid at the school, like, you knew them. But like growing up, it was I kind of tried to assimilate. So I would change myself with my hair. People would talk about my hair like, oh, why does it look like this? And that's when I was younger, I used to always straighten my hair, press it, try to make it long, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't till like high school, I actually like understood what it meant to be a Black person and how my hair is like, it's supposed to be like this. It's like, it defines gravity. Like it's something so like deeper than just hair. So I feel like always you got to be like cautious about your surroundings. But as everyone else said, I'm proud to be a Black person and finally started to embrace it.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much to the student panelists. This has been eye-opening for, I think, everyone that is on this webinar right now. Let's move to the next slide. So question 7 was supposed to be, do you as a person of color feel as if your vote makes a difference? You know, we are running out of time. So I think I'm just going to tell you that your vote does make a difference. And you know, if you saw the presidential debate last night, you know that some things need to change. That was a circus of a debate, and every vote matters. Every vote counts, and not just for the presidential election, for the state assembly, for the Senate, for the local mayor, for the local school board, the city council. You know, get your book. Read this book, you guys. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote. Let's go to the next slide. Because I want everyone to take out their phones and take a picture of this QR code, and it's going to take you to the website to register to vote if you are not already. It's something that's very important. The last day to register to vote is October 19th, and I encourage everyone to get that done. If you have not, read this book. If you have not, look it up online, look at your local issues, and let's all come together and let's use our voices to make a change. Next slide. Fun fact, there have been more than a dozen races decided by a single vote or ending in a tie over the last 20 years. So yes, your vote matters. Next slide. Next.
Thank you so much. And you know, unfortunately, we have to be respectful of everybody's time. And there were some great questions that we will get to at our next webinar. Gosh, I don't know what to say. It's you know, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. You know, just your heartfelt words was just so meaningful to myself personally, and I'm sure the rest of our campus community as well. So all you panelists, I want to say thank you so much for sharing from your hearts your experiences. Bonita, thank you for moderating and doing a fantastic job. I look forward to more work with you on this particular cause and others. And I have to give special acknowledgement to Robert Mascaneris for his hard work in putting together our presentation and developing our questions for the forum today. And obviously Michael Ashton and our Dean, Dr. Matt Kaplan, for their support for this forum and for their athletics. I really want to state that there is an urgency on Black lives as well as racial and social injustices. I want everybody to realize, and I want everybody to know, that Moorpark College and athletics is committed to change and believes that Black lives matters. Next slide, please. Moorpark College Athletics and Sports Medicine, in conjunction with the Moorpark College Student Health Center mental health team, will have their weekly Friday athletics chat. This is a support opportunity for our student athletes only. This week's topic will be social justice in sports, continuing the discussion. If you need the link, please feel to contact Sharice or Merrill. It's only for student athletes. And we are listening. We are there for you to support you. Michelle Obama said, race and racism is a reality that so many of us grow up learning to just deal with. If we ever hope to move past it, it can't just be on people of color to deal with it. It's up to all of us, Black, white, everyone, no matter how well-meaning we think we might be, do the honest, uncomfortable work of rooting it out. Well, we all know that we cannot erase history, but we can be a voice. and as leaders through teamwork and collaboration for the necessary change in athletics, on our campus, and worldwide, one conversation at a time. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Again, my apologies for not getting to your questions, but we will have them and we will answer them in our next forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.